Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Have been enjoying your day so far, and we're only a month or so away, I imagine, from when the CDL 2021 is going to begin. Maybe late January, maybe early February, something in that ballpark. The league is going to kick off. I imagine we're going to get some announcements on exactly what the schedule is going to be in the coming days here. Last year it was around the turn of the new year where we got all the announcements flooding out to the public. But today, wanted to look at what some of the spiciest rivalries are going to be this upcoming season. There are certainly some spectacular ones coming in from the Call of Duty League 2020 season, but also some new ones which have come about from the 4v4 switch, but also because of the introduction of some new teams, namely the Los Angeles Thieves, into the Call of Duty League for 2021. Intrigued to hear your thoughts on which you think is the spiciest in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you for doing that. Really helps out the channel indeed. And well, this comes out yesterday from Trident 31 on the competitive Call of Duty Reddit. OpTic versus Dallas gets the #1 pick. Of course, really that comes from OpTic versus Dallas, OpTic versus Envy, the E Classico back in full format really here with OpTic Chicago now being the name of that team. But in addition, you've then got the Scump and Crimsix rivalry on top of that, right? So I do think that OpTic versus Dallas is probably the #1. Going to be talking that in a couple of minutes as well. But there's certainly some other big ones, I think, which definitely are deserving of mention. The first one I thought I would talk about here was Atlanta FaZe versus the Dallas Empire. These are really the two big teams last season going up against each other for World Championship glory. Certainly had their back and forths over the course of the season. Dallas got the better of them right at the end of the year. And there's really a question mark here whether, yes, are Dallas and Atlanta once again going to be the two teams to beat this season? You could certainly say that they are in terms of, okay, Dallas are the reigning world champions minus Gleister. Atlanta FaZe now have Arcites in the team in addition to Simpa, Beezy and Celium. That core three of an SMG, well, trio I suppose, and of course Celium I imagine is going to be the flex on this team, and maybe even Simp if 3 assault rifles are needed on certain maps. But if you look at that kind of core 3 of the team plus the main assault rifle, Atlanta versus Dallas is still a really big question mark, right? Simpa, Beezy and Celium versus Shotzi, Hook and Illy. I mean, it's a pretty damn nice core 3 on both teams. These were the two teams that went back and forth the most last season for the championship, and well, this season I imagine it's going to continue once again. And FaZe versus Envy, FaZe versus Empire as it is right now is a, well, certainly something to keep your eyes on. Thought I'd mention this as well because everyone's talking about Envy and this is a little bit unfamiliar to you if you haven't been around the scene too long. Envy, of course, Team Envy was a long-time organisation in the Call of Duty scene, and there is actually an homage to it if you guys weren't aware in the Dallas Empire logo, where you can see it's not perfectly symmetrical here. There's actually a gap on its right-hand side so that this spells N and then a V right here. So if you guys weren't aware, I imagine most people have heard about this by now, but I thought I'd mention it regardless because I'm sure some of you guys haven't seen this before. The other one to mention then is OpTic Chicago versus Los Angeles Thieves. This isn't really like a rivalry in terms of what these two teams are like. The players on the teams that are not like exactly super spicy between some of the individuals on the organization. You can also, I suppose you can talk about Dashy, right, versus Los Angeles Thieves versus his former team of Slasher TJ, who kind of dropped him off the team last season, Kenny of course, and now he's on OpTic Chicago trying to get his revenge. But the main thing really is the fact that, well, Hector bought out the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles spot, used the OpTic Gaming intellectual property to rebrand his own team to OpTic Chicago under NRG, and then sold on the OGLA spot to then Nadeshot and 100 Thieves, who then brought in Los Angeles Thieves. Crazy storyline, frankly, what's happened here throughout the off-season. But Los Angeles Thieves, 100 Thieves back in the CDL, or back in, well, the Call of Duty League, I suppose, up against OpTic is always going to be a fun one, and I thought this is a pretty legendary image I just found up here on Google. But Nadeshot and Hex, of course, and well, Scump here on the left, Sundance, Dr. Disrespect, and Fwiz. I mean, these guys are foundational members, of course, of the Call of Duty scene. Cool to see these guys back together. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who support OpTic and going to support 100 Thieves, and also the other way around, because, well, these guys, I mean, Nadeshot was on OpTic for a very long time, of course, but certainly the idea of Nadeshot trying to get one up on his old man in that sense, I suppose, is certainly going to be something to keep your eyes on throughout the season. The other one then is FaZe versus OpTic. You can talk about Arcites, right, deciding to leave OpTic Chicago, going over to Atlanta FaZe, certainly has maybe something to prove on that team, as we talked about yesterday, but also OpTic versus FaZe, right, is one of the oldest rivalries in Call of Duty history, really from way back in the trick-shotting, sniping kind of days, and, you know, of course, FaZe versus OpTic is always a fun one. We didn't really get it last season too much. FaZe versus Chicago Huntsman, I think they kind of went back and forth a little bit, but we had like 6 months almost without that matchup even occurring, so hopefully this season it will happen more often, and it should do certainly based on the positive, well, the positive direction I believe the format is taken for 2021. So those are kind of the rivalries that don't depend too much on the players, that are more kind of organizational related, but in terms of player stuff, the New York Subliners versus the Dallas Empire is also one I don't think people are talking about too much. So the Dallas Empire right here, they do this thing where they go and, well, find the helicopter right here in the background, and they have the throne, and well, Clayster wasn't in this video, and he was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Why am I not in the video? Hastro comes out and explains, like, we don't have the rights to your image rights anymore, so we can't put you in this video. But of course, as you can see, Dallas Empire won the World Championship last year with Clayster and made the decision. I'm pretty sure it was the core three kind of got asked like by Astro, who do you want to get rid of? Is it going to be Crim? Is it going to be Clay that you want to keep? And well, Clayster of course wasn't very happy getting removed off this team, and pretty, I mean, obviously understandably so, right? Remarkable the fact that you've just won the World Championship, less than 24 hours later you're dropped off the team and have to find a new organization. But Clayster, back-to-back world champion now on the United squad in Black Ops 4, now on Dallas Empire. Could he go for the three-peats? I mean, a dropped Clayster is always a scary beast, as we've talked about a number of different times, and now he's here on the New York subliners alongside Zuma, Mac and Hydra, potentially a seam over on this squad. I would certainly keep your eyes on this team to be a pretty deadly force when the World Championship comes around. I think they're going to certainly take a while to hit their strides, but in the latter half of the year, subliners and co and Clayster may be coming for the neck of Crimsix and the Dallas Empire to prove that they made the wrong decision. I'm sure that's on his mind right here for the season going forwards. The other one, of course, to talk about, which is, well, the big, spicy, exciting one, is Crimsix versus Scump, right? So these guys, of course, had a long tenure on the OpTic Gaming squad. I mean, of course, if you guys have watched the documentary, I'll leave link down below. Pretty, well, I think it does a pretty good job going through exactly how their careers intertwined. But playing for a long time, of course, on the OpTic Gaming dynasty through several years, they were the longest teaming duo in Call of Duty history with almost the most championships together. I think that technically Formula and Scump have 20, Crim and Scump have like 19 or something like that. But that includes Formula and Scump's couple of victories this past season in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and you can consider some of those online. The first one, of course, was in London at, well, CDL Starter CDL 2020. The second one was online, and there were only 8 team events. You can ask the question whether those are like legitimate tournament wins or not, as I'm sure a lot of people are doing for pretty much all the teams in that league last season. But I thought this is pretty entertaining on the 20th of November right here. So just really after these guys split up after the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 season, they certainly wanted to go their separate ways. I mean, Crimsix kind of frustrated the fact that at the end of World War II, when Scump didn't have a great year, he decided to stick with Scump into Black Ops 4. They won the event after they brought back Karma alongside Dashy and TJ in that 5v5 arena at Las Vegas 2019. But then in the latter half of the year, when Crimsix didn't have the best World Championship, Scump effectively decided like it's time to go, getting Formal back into Chicago Huntsman, and Crimsix had to go his separate ways. And I thought this was pretty entertaining after Crimsix teamed up with Clayster. He put in the chat, use code Clayster for 5% off Scuff Gaming products, all this type of stuff. Of course, sub to Scump. And well, was people weren't too happy about Crimsix being in the stream right here. And the Scump says he insisted I ban it because he couldn't give constructive criticism last year without calling someone out. So people made fun of him. I was just being a good teammate. Hashtag build an empire. And is it funny though, coming to my stream after talking all that smack to promote his code? Hilarious. Grown men in the gaming community. So yeah, obviously some drama between these two. We certainly saw it at the first event. This was at the Minnesota home series, or Minnesota. It was at the Minnesota launch weekend, it was called at the time, when well, there was certainly some pent-up frustration between Crimsix and Scump early part of the season. We had the rent-free stuff, and then of course Crimsix comes back and gets his revenge, I suppose, by winning the World Championship right at the end of the year. Well, Scump, as we talked about yesterday, had a 3-0 record against the Dallas Empire on LAN, but then things went online. Dallas got the better of them once and didn't match up with them for the rest of the season, but did of course go on to win the World Championship. So certainly now, of course, Chicago Huntsmen are OpTic Chicago. Dallas Empire is still the Dallas Empire, the reigning World Championship winners with Crimsix on the squad. And this is certainly going to be a rivalry that's going to be continuing to come up and up again over the next couple of seasons. And it's probably the spiciest one to keep your eyes on going forwards. Two of the biggest names in Call of Duty history. Two of the, well, the longest teaming duo, the arguably the most successful duo of all time. 1,799 days teaming together. Have a fierce rivalry last season. And I imagine it's going to continue even more so this season. You could argue that, OpTic Chicago squad may be more competitive now if Dashy does hit form. So certainly something that's going to be very exciting to keep your eyes on, especially if we do end up getting back to LAN. Just one thing I wanted to finish off with as well that I thought was pretty interesting. We imagine the Paris Legion roster is going to be Scraps, Aqua, Fire, and, Classic is the squad, as it seems like it's going to be right now. Scraps, of course, and Waskin dropped off the Royal Ravens. They didn't seem very happy about it. It seems like there is some drama, to be honest, some conflict between Scraps and some of the other guys on the Royal Ravens. The fact that they decided not to keep him, seems like maybe Dylan and some of the other guys decided that Shawnee was going to be a better fit for their squad, and the coaching staff did not think that Scraps and Waskin were the right direction to go in. So certainly, like, London versus Paris already is a good rivalry, like the two European teams. The English versus the French is always something which has gone back a number of years. But Scraps now on the Paris Legion against the Royal Ravens. I'm sure he's going to be looking for revenge every time he plays these guys to prove that, they made the incorrect decision in dropping him. And it's going to be interesting to see how this develops going forwards, because on paper, Paris Legion's team actually might not be too bad here, even though they have certainly left it a while to get everything locked in. Sypien. But I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. Which rivalries did I miss in this video? Which ones are you most looking forward to? Is it going to be Scump versus Crimsix, OpTic versus Dallas, or is there another one you guys are keeping your eyes on? Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.